One of the biggest confusions is the difference between the phrases handmade and handcrafted. So today, I'm going to break down the supposed difference between the two and if you should even pay attention to them at all. So let's get into it.
I'm just here to connect ya, and then I'll be on my way.
Yeehaw Cowboy.com has so many different kinds of brands. Los Altos, their own brands of boots. Tin Hall, they got Stetson, even the hats too, and you guys can get 10% off when you use my code at checkout. My promo code changes like a couple of times a quarter. Make sure that you go to my website, jeremiahcraig.com/promo codes, so that you can get the latest code. I came from the marketing world before I started, going really hard on this YouTube channel. And it's a world where we were always looking for the, well, that's not technically wrong phrase so that we could sell stuff a little easier. And there's two of those phrases in the cowboy boot industry that sometimes producers don't even recognize and they confuse themselves. And of course, I'm talking about the phrases handmade and handcrafted. Handcrafted is supposed to be defined as like made traditionally, mostly if not all by hand, no machine process at all. Handmade technically means that hands were used somewhere in the process of making a boot, right? It's really confusing, right? Coville Leather, their website has such a good breakdown, and I'll put the link in the description. They have a small example in cutting leather, and they said handmade would be when leather is cut with a die. So that means they have the shape, and then a machine comes down and stamps it out. That would be handmade. Handcrafted is when somebody cuts out by hand with a knife. So just that little difference means handcrafted versus handmade. Super subtle, but it means a lot to some people. Handcrafted is treated by some to be much more well-defined term because handmade is one of those phrases where marketers are going to say, well, there's a machine process, but they don't get to the machine without somebody taking the boots there by hand, right? So there's nothing technically wrong with it. The kind of phrase that marketers like me just fall over all the time, right? So unfortunately, though, they're becoming so jumbled up by many different companies that both terms are used when describing boots. They're being used interchangeably as a synonym, right? Here's a good example right here. Let me pull it up. Bam. This is the post for the Los Altos Python boots. You can see in the title, it says handcrafted, right? But then in the description, first bullet point, it says handmade. So what is it? Is it handmade or handcrafted? They're supposed to be different things. I'm not just picking on Yeehaw Cowboy for this. We can also pick on Tecovas for this. Tecovas does it too. You can see here, handcrafted in Leon, Mexico, right there on the left-hand side. And then if you go to their About page, you can see, oh, it's actually handmade. So what is it? Is it handcrafted or handmade? These are supposed to be two different terms here. But they're not the only ones. I can keep this going. I'm gonna pick on timsboots.com. You guys know how I like timsboots.com. They got the Blackjack Safari Gray Giraffe boot here. Look at that beautiful boot. But you go down the description and you see all Blackjack boots are 100% handcrafted. And then underneath that it says handmade in the USA. Which one is it? Which one? These are supposed to be two different things. So you have people coming at you with handmade, this is handmade, this is handcrafted, and it's just like, what is better? What does it mean? They're being used as synonyms. And the only place where I saw somebody stick to their guns, where you would expect them to stick to their guns, is on blackjackboots.net. You go to their About page, and it's handcrafted. Nowhere on their website that I saw did they put in handmade at all. So this is a company that is dedicated to using the right terminology when they can, and I respect that 100%. So if you haven't figured this out already, I would suggest that you start to ignore these phrases altogether. They mean nothing now. Handmade, handcrafted. Marketing ruins everything. Marketing ruins these phrases, and I'm sorry guys, but marketing just ruined handmade and handcrafted for us all. It happens. Marketing ruined Facebook. Marketing ruins television. Marketing ruins radio. Like, eventually YouTube, and maybe, I hope my channel doesn't get ruined by marketing, but maybe that's a possibility. You guys are going to have to let me know if you're feeling like you're getting marketed to too much. Because I don't want to ruin the channel, but it definitely is possible, because I am a marketer. So, you know, what can we do? What can we do if we can't believe what is handmade or what is handcrafted? Well, we got to break down the features ourselves. It comes back to us, right? We have to look into the brand and figure out what we want in a boot. So first, you want to figure out what you want in a boot that fits your needs. That means price and the details, right? So first, look at the price and compare it to the small details in that price. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So they're probably taking shortcuts someplace else if they're selling a full quill ostrich boot for $100 or less. You can look at the details and areas where handcrafting will take more effect than handmade. So you have a good area to see this is in the skiving of the boot. So remember, the skiving is taking the leather and then just shaving it at its edges so it becomes paper thin at its edges, but it's really thicker than that in the middle. And they do that so that you have this really clean edge where it meets the top of the boot. You see how clean that is? It's basically the same. This Blackjack boot, Blackjack is so good. They got some great artisans skiving leather. This is technically a handmade boot because a die cut out the top here. And you can see the difference. You can see how far off the leather is from that top, right? You have just a little bit more, like you can tell that it's not seamless. Of course there's a seam on this boot, on the Blackjack, but like you can tell the difference. This one is skived and this one is not. And they do that to save money. That's not always a bad thing. Like, there's a time and a place for it, because this boot is just under $300 and this boot is just under $800. So there's a huge difference. So it all depends on what you're looking for. Los Altos is a great boot for the price. Blackjack is a great boot for the price, regardless of what marketing terms like handcrafted or handmade mean. So decide what you want in a boot before going into it, and recognize marketing terms as a way to get you in the door rather than gospel. Another thing that you can do is look at the about page. You know, Blackjack has a great about page in my opinion, because they're basically like, here's our leather, this is what we use. You know, they're talking about using a 9-iron insole, which is really nice leather, and they're talking about using cream cow linings. Like, there's very little fluff in here at all. So little fluff. It's just like, this is what we make our boots out of. That is how to get a boot enthusiast excited. Now, if you go down to the Tecovas about page and you just sort of go through, it's more about the feelings than it is about the boots. Blackjack doesn't have to rely on that. Like I said, I'm not hating on Tecovas here. I'm just saying that they're in different levels, right? So Tecovas is marketing to your feelings. Blackjack is marketing to you as a boot enthusiast, because they know you want an expensive, perfectly made boot. So just know what you're going into, and treat the marketing terms like handmade or handcrafted as a way to get you in the door, and then do your own research. Look at the small details. Do not give any weight to handcrafted or handmade anymore, because they basically mean nothing. What do you guys think? Let me know. Let me know.
Handcrafted, handmade, these companies make them mean the same. Check the retail and the detail, from the wording to the leather grain. Marketers like me, we're messing everything up all the time. Gotta watch out for folks like us.
Yo, let's go. Thanks, guys.